I want to argue for contextualism. According to contextualism, the contrast between what the speaker means and what she literally says is illusory, and the notion of what a sentence says incoherent. What is said, the truth conditional content of the utterance, is nothing but an aspect of speaker's meaning. That is not to deny that there is a legitimate contrast to be drawn between what the speaker says and what he or she merely implies. Both, however, belong to the realm of speaker's meaning and are pragmatic through and through. 2003, 7. François Recanati. François Recanati is a prominent French analytic philosopher, known for his significant contributions to the philosophy of language and mind. He is particularly recognized for his work on contextualism, arguing that the meaning and truth conditional content of an utterance are heavily dependent on context, going beyond what is determined by mere linguistic rules. Thanks for reading No Mic Podcast Scribed by Facelesslingjutsu. Subscribe for free to receive new posts and support my work. He is also a leading proponent of the mental file framework, a theory that explains how we refer to the world in thought and language. This framework posits that our minds use mental files to store information gathered through our interactions with objects, and these files serve as our modes of presentation and allow us to refer to those objects. Recanati has explored these ideas extensively in numerous books and articles, playing a key role in shaping the interdisciplinary field at the intersection of philosophy of language and mind, linguistics, and cognitive science. Based on the provided text, François Recanati was born in 1952. His early life would encompass the period from his birth up until he began his university studies. The text states he received his degree in philosophy in 1974 after secondary studies at the Lycée Jacques Decour and the Sorbonne. He then went on to study at Oxford University and the School for Advanced Studies in the Social Sciences IHES from 1975 to 1990.3. Therefore, his early life, in terms of his education and initial academic pursuits, would have lasted until he completed his first degree in philosophy in 1974, at the age of 22.4. On Defining Communicative Intentions 1986, this paper explores the concept of communicative intention, a core element of Gricean pragmatics, and how it contributes to the meaning and understanding of utterances. It delves into the complexities of speaker meaning and hearer interpretation. Meaning and Force, The Pragmatics of Performative Utterances, Cambridge University Press, 1988. In Meaning and Force, Recanati delves into the nature of performative utterances, those statements that, when uttered, perform an action, such as I promise or I declare. The book explores the intricate relationship between the linguistic meaning of these utterances and the elocutionary force they carry, challenging traditional views that strictly separate semantics meaning from pragmatics force. Recanati argues for a more integrated understanding, suggesting that the force of an utterance is not merely an add-on to its meaning but is often an intrinsic aspect of its pragmatic content, contributing directly to what is communicated and achieved through speech. This work laid foundational groundwork for his later explorations into the pervasive role of context in linguistic interpretation. The Pragmatics of What Is Said 1989, an influential article that further develops his contextualist position, arguing that what is said is itself a pragmatically enriched notion, going beyond purely semantic content. This article is foundational for understanding the nuances of his view on the semantics-pragmatics interface. Referential Attributive, a Contextualist Proposal 1989, in this article, Recanati applies his contextualist framework to the classic distinction between referential and attributive uses of definite descriptions, e.g. the murderer when referring to a specific person vs. whoever the murderer is. He proposes a contextualist solution to the debate, suggesting that the distinction is not a matter of semantic ambiguity but arises from pragmatic processes. How Narrow is Narrow Content 1994, this paper discusses the concept of narrow content in the philosophy of mind, which aims to capture the content of a mental state independently of external factors. Recanati analyzes different interpretations of narrow content and its implications for theories of mind. Direct reference, From Language to Thought, Blackwell Publishers, 1993, 1997. Direct reference is a seminal work where Recanati explores the concept of direct reference, particularly how terms like proper names and demonstratives refer directly to objects in the world without the mediation of descriptive content. He extends this idea beyond language to thought, arguing that our mental representations also engage in direct reference, giving rise to singular thoughts about specific individuals. This book is crucial for understanding his development of the mental file framework, as it begins to bridge the gap between linguistic theories of reference and cognitive accounts of how we entertain thoughts about objects in our environment, setting the stage for his later more detailed work on mental files. Oratio Obliqua, Oratio Recta, an essay on metarepresentation, MIT Press, 2000. In Oratio Obliqua, Oratio Recta, Recanati meticulously examines the nature of metarepresentation, which is the ability to represent representations themselves. For example, when we report what someone else said in direct speech, or oratio obliqua, or directly quote them direct speech, or oratio recta. The book provides a comprehensive theory of how we understand and use such reports, emphasizing the role of simulation and implicit understanding in grasping the content of another's thoughts or utterances. This work is significant for its insights into the cognitive mechanisms underlying our capacity for mind reading and for engaging in complex social interactions that rely on interpreting the communicative intentions of others. The Fodorian Fallacy 2002, in this article, Recanati critiques Jerry Fodor's arguments regarding the nature of concepts and compositionality, particularly Fodor's claim that nothing epistemic can be constitutive of a concept. Recanati argues that Fodor's reasoning rests on a fallacy. Literal Meaning, Cambridge University Press, 2003. Literal Meaning is perhaps one of Recanati's most influential and controversial works, where he develops his robust version of contextualism. He challenges the traditional distinction between what is said literal meaning and what is implicated pragmatic meaning, arguing that even the literal content of an utterance is deeply influenced by pragmatic processes. Recanati contends that primary pragmatic processes are involved in determining the truth conditional content of an utterance, meaning that context plays a pervasive role in shaping what is literally expressed, often going beyond what linguistic rules alone would dictate. This book significantly shaped debates in the philosophy of language regarding the semantics-pragmatics interface. Perspectival Thought, A Plea for Moderate Relativism, Clarendon Press, 2007. In Perspectival Thought, Recanati tackles the issue of relativism in meaning and thought, advocating for a moderate form of contextual relativism. He argues that many aspects of thought and language are perspectival, meaning their truth or content is relative to a particular point of view or context, without collapsing into radical subjectivity. The book explores how our understanding of properties like taste, knowledge, and even basic facts can depend on the perspective from which they are evaluated. This work extends his contextualist project, showing how the reliance on context is not just a feature of communication but also a fundamental aspect of how we structure and engage with reality through our cognitive processes. Truth Conditional Pragmatics, Oxford University Press, Oxford, 2010. Truth Conditional Pragmatics further elaborates on the central arguments presented in Literal Meaning, pushing the boundaries of how we conceive of the relationship between truth conditions and pragmatic interpretation. Recanati argues that pragmatic processes often contribute directly to the truth conditional content of an utterance, meaning that what an utterance literally says and its conditions for being true are not solely determined by its linguistic form. The book defends the idea that the what is said is itself a pragmatically enriched notion, offering a more nuanced and unified account of how meaning is constructed in real-world communicative contexts, reinforcing his contextualist stance. Mental Files, Oxford University Press, Oxford, 2012. Mental Files offers a comprehensive and systematic exposition of Recanati's highly influential mental file framework. This book posits that our minds manage and store information about individuals and objects in mental files, which are dynamic cognitive structures that integrate various pieces of information acquired through perception, memory, and communication. These files serve as our modes of presentation of objects, allowing us to refer to them in thought and language. The book details the characteristics of mental files, their role in singular thought and reference, and how they contribute to our ability to track objects over time and across different encounters. Mental Files in Flux, Oxford University Press, Oxford, 2016. Building upon the foundations laid in Mental Files, Mental Files in Flux explores the dynamic and evolving nature of these cognitive structures. Recanati investigates how mental files are created, updated, and sometimes merged or split as we acquire new information or change our understanding of the world. The book delves into the mechanisms by which information is added to files, how files are linked to the external world, and how they enable us to maintain coherent representations of objects despite constantly changing sensory input and information. This work further refines the mental file framework, addressing more complex scenarios of reference and understanding within a dynamic cognitive system. IEM Explained. Forthcoming, Philosophical Psychology. This recent or forthcoming article delves into immunity to error through misidentification. IEM, a philosophical concept concerning self-ascriptions of mental states, e.g. I am in pain. Recanati offers an explanation of IEM within his framework, comparing it to other accounts. Collins and Elburn on Free Pragmatic Processes. Forthcoming, Inquiry, an interdisciplinary journal of philosophy. This upcoming paper continues his engagement with the semantics-pragmatics debate, specifically focusing on free pragmatic processes, those pragmatic contributions to meaning that are not explicitly mandated by the linguistic form. He discusses the views of John Collins and Paul Elburn on this topic. François Recanati is still alive. Born in 1952, he is currently 72 or 73 years old, and remains an active research fellow at the Collège de France and the Centre National de la Recherche Scientifique. Through the interaction between the context-independent meanings of our words and the particulars of the situation talked about, contextualized, modulated senses emerge, appropriate to the situation at hand. The meaning of a word can thus be made contextually more specific, or it may, on the contrary, be loosened and suitably extended, as in metaphor. It may also undergo semantic transfer, etc. Recanati 2003, 142. References. François Recanati, Center for the Study of Mind in Nature. François Recanati. The Aristotelian Society. October 8, 2017. Retrieved August 5, 2019. Recanati, François. 2004. Literal Meaning. Cambridge, UK, Cambridge University Press. Pages ISBN 052-179-2460. ESAP. Riller, Jacques van March 5, 2017. Un déconverti du lacanisme, François Recanati. Club de Mediapart in French. Retrieved August 5, 2019. Cap Elan, Herman. 2018. Fixing Language, an essay on conceptual engineering. Oxford, Oxford University Press. p. 129. ISBN 9780198814719. Collins, John, Dobler, Tamara 2018. The Philosophy of Charles Travis, Language, Thought, and Perception. Oxford, Oxford University Press. p. 21. ISBN 9780198783916. Recanati François, Institut Jean Nicod. www.institutnicod.org. Retrieved August 5, 2019. Stanley, Jason. August 9, 2005. François Recanati, Literal Meaning. Notre Dame Philosophical Reviews. University of Notre Dame. Retrieved September 25, 2013. Stanley, Jason. 2007. Language in Context, Selected Essays. Oxford, Clarendon Press. p. 232. ISBN 9780199225927. Conrad, Sarah Jane, Petrus, Klaus. 2017. Meaning, Context and Methodology. Boston, Berlin, Walter de Gruyter GmbH & Co. KG. p. 95. ISBN 9781501512179. Dickich, Jerome, Proust, Joel. 2002. Simulation and Knowledge of Action. Amsterdam, John Benjamins Publishing Co. p. 173. ISBN 9781588112668. Proust, Joel. 2013. The Philosophy of Metacognition, Mental Agency and Self-Awareness. Oxford, Oxford University Press. p. 43. ISBN 9780199602162. Biography et Publications. François Recanati, Philosophie du langage et de l'esprit. Collège de France. www.college-de-france.fr. Retrieved May 6, 2025. Bach, Kent. August 31, 2011. François Recanati, Truth. Conditional Pragmatics. Notre Dame Philosophical Reviews. University of Notre Dame. Retrieved September 25, 2013.